Another question I've encountered frequently is why? Why tell this particular story? For me, the answer is pretty straightforward. I'm curious, and I'm hoping that curiosity leads me to relate better to God and to my neighbors. Recent Pew research confirmed what the church in the United States has known for a while. People are leaving. And the harsh realities of the Pew modeling was that if something doesn't happen, that is, if people continue to leave at the rates they've been leaving for the past 3 decades, by 2070, less than 50 years from now, Christians will make up just over a third of the United States population. So the question is not what is happening, so much as why is it happening? And what can we do about it? And it seems that the church, especially as I've been researching for this series, it seems that the church is that they're somewhat curious about why it's happening. But it seems like they're more interested in blaming something outside of the church rather than looking inside and saying, okay, where do we need to do better? For example, I have seen the attrition rates in religion, particularly Christianity, attributed to President Trump, his election, his administration, and more specifically than that, the evangelical support of it. And while I think that could be a factor, I don't think it's the whole picture. I've seen it attributed to Christian celebrity, that we've made idols out of our pastors, and I think that's part of it, but I think our pastors have made idols out of themselves, first of all, and I do think there's a level of disillusionment that comes when they fall. But again, I think that's part of the picture. I don't think that's the whole picture. I've seen it attributed to the growth of the LGBTQ plus community. And again, I think that with so many of us who have loved ones within that community, and I'm speaking on a very personal level here, there is a very strong desire to find ways to include them in faith and to include them in the ministries of the church and so on and so forth. And I know I'm going to get blasted for that, and go for it. That is a part of it. But I think there are other things as well. Now, I know my own experience. I know the questions that I've wrestled with. I know why I don't feel like church is a particularly safe or valuable place for me to be. But that's one perspective. And I'm curious about others. And so rather than assuming that I've got it all figured out and my perspective is the only perspective, I've begun to ask people. I have a questionnaire, I've got an upcoming survey, and we'll go into more detail about that in the future. But asking people, hey, what was your experience, and what brought you to this place? What questions did you wrestle with, and what resources did you find that were helpful for you? And again, all of this is driven by, again, a curiosity. I genuinely want to know why. But I also genuinely want to relate better to God. And I want to genuinely be able to relate better to the people who are around me. Because if I'm not doing that, if I'm not loving God and I'm not loving the people around me, I am not doing what Jesus commanded me to do. And so I'm hoping that rather than throw out answers and solutions, that this story, first of all, deeply transforms me, that I look in and I do the work of repentance for myself. That where I have held things that are harmful for people, where I've said and done things that are harmful for people, that I am transformed through hearing people's stories, through making the story in a community of other people who are also joining me to make the story, then I'm transformed by that I more of Christ is formed in me, and more of Christ is in the world. So maybe it's not a greater Christian population, but it's more of Christ in the world. That's my goal. That's my why. And of course, as more people come on, we'll have them share their whys of why they became involved and why they want to tell this story as well. But it's really important that if I'm going to ask the question of why, then I'm also willing to ask the question of what do I do better?